Welcome to Business Class. I'm Steve Ekstrom from Learn Tourism, a nonprofit academy dedicated to advancing the tourism industry through innovative training and sustainable practices. Our mission? To empower travel professionals and communities with the knowledge they need to create meaningful, authentic, and sustainable tourism experiences. Ready to join us on this journey? Visit learntourism.org and start making a difference today.
My name is Gathan Borden. Currently, right now, I'm the Client and Insights Relations Manager over at Tourism Economics.
Very nice. Tell me, Gathan, what is a challenge that you had growing up that has influenced who you are today?
I would probably say the biggest challenge I had growing up, honestly, was constantly having to prove myself. I was born here in Louisville, Kentucky. When my parents moved into a house in 1987. My dad actually still lives in the same house that we had since the third grade. But when we moved into that neighborhood, we were the only black family in that neighborhood. And in our school system, we had a program that was called advanced placement. It was for the kids that were smarter than the other kids. And I tested really high. So I ended up bouncing around to a couple of different elementary schools because I was always in the advanced class. But in the advanced class, I was always the only black student in my classroom. I was constantly having to prove myself that I wasn't just in the classroom because I was an athlete, but because I was really smart. Dealing with that at a young age taught me to always being able to prove my worth and always fighting for a space at the table. That's just carried throughout the rest of my career and the rest of my life. So going all the way back to elementary school is where I started from.
You mentioned your folks. How are you most like each of your folks?
I put it in two ways. My mother passed away. I lost my mother in 2006, but my mother was an all-state insurance adjuster by day, but she was a creative at night. She actually sewed her own clothes. She made dresses, she made pants, she made everything. My mother was a singer. And so the creative aspect of my life comes from my mom's side. I sing as well. I play instruments. I played in the band growing up. I was in the marching band, but I also played sports. I was that dual athlete kind of person. But the creativity comes from my mother. Then my father was a police officer for 27 years, very disciplined. The disciplined part of my life to where I still go to the gym 4 days a week. I like a regimented schedule. That comes from my father. I would say probably the discipline from my father and the creativity from my mother is the blend that I have of both parents.
That's a unique blend for a lot of folks. A lot of folks can't
Yeah.
manage both of those.
Yeah.
How do you apply that to what you do and what your career ambitions are?
Yeah, I started doing a couple of things. Over the last couple of years, I started journaling, which I had never done that before. I went through a rough patch a couple of years ago where I went through a divorce, and you start going through all these things in your head about what is life. You start questioning everything, right? And somebody had told me about journaling. And so I actually got it's called a man's journal, but it actually prompts you to write down different things anytime you want to journal. So I started journaling a lot more. And what I do now is on Sundays, I actually do what I call like a weekly planning activity. And I sit down for about an hour and I just plan out what I want my week to look like. And that gives me the discipline to actually put things on my calendar, but it gives me the creativity to sit there and say, what do I want to do this week? Do I want to write this week? Do I want to go out and do some photography this week? Do I want to go play golf this week? It gives me the ability to do both of those things. And so that's helped me a lot over these last couple of years is actually sitting down, putting that creativity and that discipline down on paper, and then put some things into action for myself.
Tell me a little bit about your career journey. How did you end up where you are now?
Yeah, it's my career journey. It's always a fun story to tell, and I tell people. So I stumbled into this industry. I think a lot of people did, but back in 2007, Louisville Tourism had a marketing role that they had just newly created, and I just applied for the role. I saw it. I had no marketing experience. I had no tourism experience. I had no hospitality experience. I had nothing. And I just applied on a whim. I'm born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I love the city and I love marketing. So I figured, oh, what's the harm in applying for a job that combines two things I absolutely love? And so that's what I did. So I started in Louisville in 2007 as a marketing manager. It was a new role, so no one had done the role before. The primary responsibility was just to be the conduit between the tourism office and the agency was running all the campaigns. They were doing everything. And my job is to make sure that everything ran off without a hitch. So a little bit of project management was probably the main focus that I had. Then in 2009, social media comes into the industry and nobody knows what to do with that. And I took that on as a role of mine as well. And then 2012, I ended up getting promoted there. Then in 2015, I got hired away to go to Lexington, Kentucky, which was an hour away. I was led of the marketing team there for 7.5 years. And then after that, I spent the last 2 years recently at Destinations International leading the marketing team there. It's just been a great experience over these last 17 years. It's when I say 17 years, it makes me feel like I'm like super old, but it's been a great 17 years, great relationships. Every job that I've had and every promotion that I have received really has come through the relationships that I've had within the existing companies or previous companies, or somebody else has helped me out and gave me a word to go talk to somebody. So that's really been the biggest thing for me, is maintaining those relationships has really helped me grow and stay within this industry.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
In a heartbeat, I'd be in the front office of the major sports franchise, probably NBA, because I love basketball a ton.
Take your time and think about it.
Oh, I don't need to, man. It is. I don't need. I tell people that all the time. I was like, everyone's like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "Man, if I had my wish, I would be in the front office of an NBA franchise." I just love basketball. I can see talent, and it trickles down to actually even in my normal life now. It's like when I see people, I'm like, "Man, that person's really talented." Like if you put them in the right environment or surround them with the right people to give them the proper leadership, like they're gonna blossom. And so that kind of just trickles into my normal life every day. But I love sports. I was a big athlete growing up, played all sports growing up. I ended up running track in college before I got hurt. I still work out heavily to this day. I just love athletics. I love what it brings to people and the unifying piece that it does for people of all ages and all races and ethnicities. I just enjoy it. So I think being in a franchise, being in the front office, being able to help change young people's lives would be an amazing opportunity.
Who do you look up to in the industry?
There's a few people that I look up to in the industry. I'd probably say first person comes to mind is Elliot Ferguson at Destination DC. He's really been a great person to talk to. I remember Elliot and I used to see each other in conferences, and we just say just small talk conversation. And then one time he somehow he got my number and called me out the blue one day. It was like he was like, "Hey, listen, I forgot what he called me for. I can't remember. Just for something." But then I just want to really just make sure that we have a relationship and maintain some type of relationship with one." So he and I have we've struck up this friendship, and it's been super helpful. Al Hutchinson is another one in Visit
Yep.
Baltimore. Al has been a really good person to be there for me in terms of providing guidance and leadership. Al's got this great like outlook on life and how he looks at people and how he looks at leadership. So I really like what he does there. And then I have a group of guys in the industry that we've been friends for, man, probably like 15 years. But there's 10 of us, and we've all been at destination organizations, and we've all now, some have moved over to the vendor side and supplier side. But those guys, which is Matt Clement at Madden Media, Leroy Bridges at Adara, Brian Callison, Jake Sullivan, Jeff Robinson's in there, Josh Collins is in there, Adam Johnson is Artico, and then Seth, who used to be at Oklahoma City, he's now at the Cowboy Museum out there in Oklahoma City. Those are my dudes. And so we've been really close for years, and we bounce our ideas off of each other. We bounce our career issues, our career aspirations off of each other. And so that's been really fun to have, is to have that little cohort of people that I can always go to talk about things.
It's great that you mentioned several people who are members of our advisory panel, who
Okay.
I also consider great friends and good people,
Yeah.
Al and Elliot. And if there were traits of theirs that you hope people see in you, what would they be?
I would probably say from Al, I would probably say I want people to know that I care. And with Al, you get that. Like, even if he knows you for 5 minutes, you know that he's okay, he's really into you. When he has a conversation with you, like he's looking at you in the eyes, he's really hearing what you're saying, but he's really thoughtful about the words that come out of his mouth. He doesn't just say anything. So you can tell that he puts thought into what comes out of his mouth. But I think that piece of him, I really appreciate. The part about Elliot that I've always enjoyed is if you didn't know who Elliot was, you wouldn't know he was the CEO of Destination DC. You wouldn't know he was that important of a figure in the industry if you didn't know him, because he moves through conferences and events so seamlessly. He talks to everybody, but he doesn't have this big ego about him, like, "Oh, I am this person." He's just, "Hey, I can go hang out with anybody. I can talk with anybody." And I think watching him maneuver around conferences, because I pay attention to that, seeing how he interacts with anybody, whether it's the CEO or whether it's a coordinator who he doesn't even know, people gravitate to him. And when I talk to him, so I think those two aspects from both of those men really are something that I hope people kind of see in me. I've been on the stage and I've done presentations, but I don't really need that. I like to move through. I like to be low key if I can. But I also do like to make sure that when I do speak, because some people say, "Oh, I think you're quiet," and I'm like, "Yeah, I can be it sometimes," but I used to try to make sure that whatever I say has some substance and I don't talk just to talk. So those are two things that I think from those two gentlemen that I would try to incorporate into my everyday life.
It is a sincerity, a humility, and an empathy
Yeah.
that convey in everything that they do. And I appreciate that too. The things I pride myself on is being a collector of nerds. I collect nerds of all sorts, and mentioning that you're in the marching band, Eric from my team, band geek, just did band
Yeah.
camp with his kids. What's something you would love to learn in the coming year?
So I go back and forth on this. There's two things that I would love to learn. One, I've never learned to play the piano. I know the keys, but I don't know how to play the piano. So that's something I would love to learn. And then two, I would love to learn a second language. I took French in high school. I think I was like the anomaly. I think everybody took Spanish, but for some reason I took French, and but I loved it. But I think now being in this industry so long, and I just got back from a trip to Greece for my birthday back in June. And when you get out and you see the world, you realize how small you are compared to the whole world. And I think, especially here in Louisville, we've had a huge influx of Hispanic immigrants, and they are in the town that I live in, the part of the city of Louisville that I live in. There's a lot of Hispanic families that live around here, and you see them in the store. And sometimes they can't speak English. I wish I could interact with them because sometimes they need help with stuff. And when I see the growth of the immigrant community in my city of Louisville, and then once you get out and travel a lot, it's man, I really need to learn like another language. And I need to figure out how to do that. I tried Rosetta Stone like that's probably 8 years ago. And I did it for 2 or 3 months and I just gave up on it. So I didn't stick to it. But yeah, playing the piano and learning how to speak another language would be two things I would really try to learn.
I've spent the last 3 winters in Mexico,
Oh, really?
and I understand enough Spanish to order off a menu and know when somebody's talking about me. That's the extent of
Yeah.
it.
My daughter takes Spanish right now. And so she gives me a few words here and there, but I can't remember half of that stuff. But I keep telling her, I was like, she's really good at Spanish. And I say, stick with it. I said, I think it's a skill that'll really help you in the long run.
Before we dive back in, a quick word from our sponsor, Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy, where we're dedicated to transforming the tourism industry with 4 key services: our cutting edge learning experience platform, which offers robust analytics and seamless updates, our custom course development, which ensures tailored learning solutions, subject matter experts who provide deep insights and valuable knowledge, and of course, our engaging speakers who are here to inspire and educate with impactful presentations. Discover how we can elevate your tourism education at learntourism.org.
What is something you wish more people knew about the industry or the work that you've done?
I think one thing that I wish people knew about the industry is that it's very vast. And I think a lot of times in this industry, we get stuck with, okay, I'm at a destination and I can only be at a destination. Or I think a lot of times we tell this story about our industry. We can go from being a bellhop to a hotel GM or something like that. And I think that a lot of times people hear that, but they don't actually see it. I think for me, that's the piece that I think people they need to be able to see those things instead of people just talking about those things. So I think about, even I take myself, but I think about all my friends in the industry who have had 3 and 4 different roles within this industry. They've all started out at destinations and some have gone to 2 or 3 different supplier side jobs. And they've been able to move around and stay in the industry and stay relevant. That's something I wish people knew that there was more of that. I would say that piece. And then the other piece when you talk about like what I wish people knew about my work, I've been fortunate to work on some really great teams in Louisville and in Lexington and in Destinations International. But I think some of the industry changing work that we've done was with US Travel. I sat on the Destinations Council Board for roughly around 6 years before they dissolved that. And when I was on the Destinations Council Board, I pitched 2 big ideas to US Travel that were implemented. One was the Emerging Leaders Program, which was to identify young and emerging leaders that were up and coming. That was my idea that I pitched at one of our Destinations Council Board meetings. And Nan, who was there at the time, took it up the chain and we put that into action. And then the second one was the DMO Digital Dashboard, which was built in partnership with SimpleView. And if you were a US Travel member, destinations were able to log in and benchmark their digital marketing efforts, primarily their website, and benchmark that against their comp set or people in their region. That was my idea. It's not something that I have to own, but it's one of those things like I take pride in being able to say, oh man, I see some things that can be created here. Let's get the right people and get the right buy-in to actually do that kind of stuff. Those are two things that I think I wish people probably knew that I was really behind both of those projects, because I think both of those have actually helped change the industry for the better.
One of the things you've mentioned a couple times is how people in the industry can move around a bit. They aren't necessarily siloed into working for a destination or working for a supplier or working for a hotelier or a meetings and conventions or whatever the case may be. What do you think are 3 or 4 of the best transferable skills that you see or that aid you in the work that you do and work that you'll do going forward?
Yeah, I think some of the transferable skills to me, the first one is really relationship building. Like, you can't move around. I don't care what industry you're in. You can't move around in an industry if you don't have relationships. I've been fortunate enough that when I was looking for an opportunity, I was able to call on a lot of people and have some really great candid conversations. And every conversation doesn't lead to a job opportunity, but that conversation leads to another conversation, which leads to another conversation, which then hopefully leads to an introduction. So I would probably say the relationship building piece is a key transferable skill that you got to have if you want to be able to move around. I would say being able to constantly be a learner would be something that people need to be able to do. I think a lot of times we take it for granted that we've been in the industry for X number of years and we think we know everything, but we really don't. We can learn a lot from especially the new people that are coming into the industry who are coming from outside agencies and outside this industry who are bringing in a different type of knowledge that we haven't had in this industry before. So they're teaching us a lot of new things, especially when it comes to data. There's so much data everywhere and everybody's trying to learn how to consume it and what to do with it. I think we can learn a lot from a lot of people. So I think constantly being in a place of I want to learn something is a transferable skill. I think another transferable skill to me would be it's about being a leader. If you're a leader, understanding what leadership really means and knowing that being a leader doesn't mean you have to be in charge of a team. It doesn't mean you have to dictate the team, but being a leader means that you can come in and you can help influence the people above you, but also help influence the people who are your counterparts. And being able to be in those spaces, I think, are some skills that I say are pretty transferable. If you can be a leader and you know how to lead, if you can constantly be a learner and constantly want to learn different things, that'll help you. And then the relationship piece, knowing how to build relationships. I think those are 3 things that pop into my mind and say, if you could do those 3, those are transferable. If you're good at them, that'll give you some longevity in this industry.
Taking a look around the room that you're in right now, what is something that means a lot to you and why?
Sitting next to me on the couch, he's asleep, but it's my dog Teddy. Teddy's a Pouchon. He's a poodle and Bichon mix. So he's white with a brown patch over his eye. So if you have an iPhone and you use the dog emoji, that's exactly what he looks like. But he means a lot to me. Teddy is now 6 years old. We got him for the kids when we were married and we had 2 kids, and I kept him during the divorce. I worked remote. There's several days where it's just me and him, and I talk to him like a regular person. We hang out, we go on walks, we go on runs, and we play around the house. But he's really important to me. He's always been here, and I just enjoy his presence. And as I look around this room, he's probably the one thing, as he sleep right now, he's the one thing that's really important to me.
One of my favorite phrases is if you want to understand unconditional love, lock your spouse and your dog in a closet for a couple hours, and one of them will be happy
One
when
of
you open the door.
that's a good point. It's funny you say that because like when I take him to get groomed, or if I drop him off at the pet suites, is where I take him for dog boarding. Whenever he comes out, it's the most exciting thing you will see coming out of there. Even last Friday, I took him to get groomed. I was only gone for 3 hours, and they were walking him out. He just comes flying like 100 miles an
Mhm.
hour, just jumps up on me, and it's like that kind of love, that kind of excitement. My kids love me. My kids don't even get that excited to see me. So he means a lot because he really makes me feel very important to him.
Yeah, I have 2 now. I have an 80-pound American Staffordshire Terrier,
Okay.
and I have a 12-pound mini Mexican Menace Mutt,
So two opposite
and
ends.
2 opposite ends. But let me tell you, the big guy, when he gets that excited, he will bowl you over. He puts all of his strength and power into that run and then just tilts his head up and chest barreling into you.
Yeah.
The little one, she's a runner. So when
Okay.
she gets excited, she runs
Okay.
and she has an air tag. What's something I didn't ask you that you wish I did?
Something that I wish you asked me that you didn't ask me. I usually tell people, I think every job that you're in, whether you like it or you hate it, if you stay in it or if you move on to something else, there's always something that you can take from that job that will help you. I think probably one of my biggest lessons, and it's really simple, is just never burn bridges. I have maintained relationships from past companies because you never know when you're going to see these people again, or you never know when you're going to need somebody again in the future. I still have lunch and cocktails with people I worked in Louisville tourism with back in 2007. I just had lunch last month with Mary Quinn, who's the president of
Oh yeah,
Visilex.
love
Yeah,
her.
and I still talk to the most of the team up there in Lexington. When I decided to leave Destinations International, Don and Gretchen, the executive team, were very supportive of me, and I kept them abreast of what I was looking for, and they were very supportive in my move away from that role. And so I just tell people, don't burn those bridges, man. You don't know when you're going to need somebody in that next lifetime for whatever else you're trying to do. One of my favorite quotes is always success occurs when preparation meets opportunity. I tell people always be prepared. And I said, because you never know when something's going to come your way, when that opportunity is going to come your way. You never know if a candid conversation with the CEO during a breakout session is going to lead to a job offer. You don't know what's going to happen. So I tell people always be prepared. You'll never catch me off guard. I'm always ready. And so I was like, always be prepared, always read those books, sit on those webinars, take those lunch meetings, take those coffee meetings, lean into those yeses because you never know when that next opportunity is going to come your way.
Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Yeah. First, where are you at right now? Because you're a nomad, right? Like, where are you at right now?
I am a hobo. I'm in an RV. I've been house sitting and dog sitting for my friends just outside of Orlando.
Okay.
They have two teeny tiny little dogs. One is 3 pounds, one is 4 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and my little dog doesn't know what to do with them because she was always the smallest one in town. So it's fun to watch that. But I'm in Orlando now. I may go on a cruise this weekend. I may skip up to Georgia. I don't know. When I sold my house and decided to travel full time,
Hmm.
I would plan 2 or 3 months in advance. There was a wonderful freedom that came when I stopped doing that because now I know this is where I am today.
Okay.
Tomorrow will sort itself out.
Yep.
I will be somewhere. I will wake up somewhere, but I really get to enjoy the space that I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's true whether I'm in a friend's driveway
Mhm.
in the suburbs or I'm on a beach in Mexico or on a cliff in Canada or having a bison breathe down my neck in Idaho somewhere, wherever it is that I am, that being in the present and being in the now and being in the space that you're in
Yeah.
is a real gift. So, yeah.
Yeah. I
So I'm
get,
sitting in
well,
an RV
yeah. Now, how long? You've been doing this for how long now?
almost 3 years.
3 years. What do you think is like one of the most revealing things you've learned about yourself in these last 3 years?
Oh, that is such a great question. Most revealing thing I've learned about myself in the last 3 years. How little I need to get by.
There you go. Nice.
And I think it's true for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I had a 2,400 square foot house. I sold absolutely everything in it.
Yeah.
And everything I need fits in the cabinets in this
Yeah.
Sprinter van.
Yeah.
And even then, I could probably get rid of a third of the stuff that I have
Hmm.
and not be want for anything. And I think while that's revealing about me, I don't hold on to stuff. I hold on to memories and experiences and people. And I said I collect nerds. I really do. If somebody crosses my mind, they get a text. It doesn't matter what day it is or how often I talk to them.
Yeah.
In not having stuff, there's also a freedom. I can walk through a gift shop and not have to buy anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't need it. I just don't need it. And life is simpler, I think, in many
Yep.
ways.
I like how you say that. It just brings me back because when I decided to leave D, I decided I'm gonna take a 2 month sabbatical. That's all it took because I really wanted to work. But during those 2 months, I realized without having income, I had my own money, that I was like, yeah, I don't really need this. I don't need to do that. Obviously, it's not on the scale that you're on, but it did give me some clarity into some things. I was looking around and stuff. I was like, I don't even need that anymore, or I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that. And it does bring a piece of freedom to your life. So I like how you said that.
And to that point, whether it's stuff or activity or people or
Hmm.
even tasks at work, when you realize your life is better off with some of that stuff, you let
Hmm.
it go.
Yep.
And
Yep.
there is an incredible amount of freedom and self-care
Yeah.
that comes with letting things go. In fact, that's my tattoo is inspired by Toni Morrison. I'll
Okay.
show it to you. It's a bird being set
Yeah.
free.
Okay.
And it's inspired by Toni Morrison. If you want to fly, you've got to give up the stuff that weighs you down.
There you go.
And that's
I
the
like that.
parts of the job you don't like, the people that are a drag, the
Yeah.
stuff in the closet that you have to look at every time you go in there and move out of the way in the cabinet. It's all that.
I
So
agree. I agree.
yeah, awesome. If folks want to get in touch with Gathan, how
Yeah.
would they go about doing so? And if they want to see your motivational posts on
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Professionally, if you want to talk about tourism economics, I'm on the Symphony team. So if you have a question about data and your data sources, obviously hit me up or hit any of the team up. My email address is just gborden@oxfordeconomics.com. But on a personal level, I'm on all social platforms. I do provide these Monday motivational quotes. I've been doing that for over 10 years now. And I just enjoy quotes. And a lot of people give me a lot of good feedback on it. So I keep that going. So I usually post those now on LinkedIn, but with Mondays only is what I call it. You can find me on there anywhere. And then I also have a website where I do write from time to time. I just finished up a series called Destination Marketing Ideas That No One Asked For. And it's a series of 4 stories about just ideas that came into my head. Nobody asked for it, but I decided to put some ideas out there. One of them, funny enough, I was on a call yesterday with Bowling Green CVB for work, and we were going through their data. And one of their top Facebook posts was the blog post that I wrote about an idea I had for Bowling Green, Kentucky. And it was one of their top posts for the month. I just like to share ideas, just really to help people be inspired. I really want to help people to be creative and to get out of their own way. Just you like hit me up anytime on any of the social platforms, and I'll be able to happy to chat with anybody and connect in that way.
thank you so much for joining me here in business class. Two nerds in business class. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invitation too.
Have a great day, Gathan.
Thanks for tuning in to Business Class. This episode was brought to you by Learn Tourism, the nonprofit academy where we advance the tourism industry with cutting-edge training and sustainable practices. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to visit learntourism.org to learn more about our programs and how you can get involved. Until next time, stay curious, continue learning and making a difference through tourism.